Long bangers. I'm Matty.
And I'm Colin. No,
How's it
no, I'm
going?
John.
It's like the Gallagher brothers back together. It's like you could be. I don't know. You need to be Liam, I suppose, because you're younger, which would put me as no. Don't know how you feel
So
about
you're the talent, and I'm the loose cannon.
the looks. We'll take that. How's it going anyway? Has your weekend been all right?
Just a busy weekend, usual stuff. Bairns activities. Try to think what else. Not much, actually. Quite boring when there's no football.
It is. Well, we did have some football yesterday with the Ajax friendly, which we'll talk a wee bit about. But like Hibs, for anybody who's just joining us and catching up, Hibs beat Ajax 2-1 in the second half of a friendly. I don't know what happened in the first half. Like it's been wiped from record. But I think the key takeaway was that Ajax, despite their best efforts, lost 2-1 to European giants Hibernian in the second half, friendly. So we'll take that. The first half has been obliterated for the records, I believe. So uh, until somebody tells me different, I'm going with a 2-1 win.
Absolutely.
So we'll talk a wee bit about that. There was also I had a talking point in for somebody to talk. I'm only touching it briefly because I appreciate it's quite a boring thing, but the investment that's coming into the Hibs. So Black Knights, um, Leslie Robb, HSL, and Baidan, who are the Gordon family, are doing a combination of putting new money in and writing debt off for shares. So the club benefit, I think, to the tune of about 4.5 million overall was the hit that it makes on the balance sheet. But they won't see all that money because some of it is already spent in debt. So we'll touch on that. We've got February fixtures to look at. We've got some talking points that have come through on Twitter over the weekend. And then, of course, for everybody who joins us live on YouTube, please do join in the conversation and we'll pick out talking points as we go through. On that note, Chris has said, evening, boys. Evening, Chris. Sandy said, evening, long bangers. I enjoyed the second half also. Yep, it was a good second half, Sandy. Bob said, good evening, gents. Sunderland have sent a midfielder out on loan to Aberdeen. Do we think that will affect them sending Nectar out? Sunderland are probably pretty well stocked for midfielders, John. I don't think that'll have too much bearing on what happens with Trantis, will it?
Um, I think with the am I right in saying that the transfer window closes in like the 1st of September or something?
I'm going to say yes, but I'm not fact checking you. So
I had a wee read about that recently because someone had mentioned the transfer window, and I thought I would have a wee look. And I think it's the 1st of September. And I think given that Sunderland have recently been promoted in what was it they call it? Is it like the richest game in the world, or how they won the playoff
yeah, it's
final?
something like that, isn't it? Yeah.
What's to that effect? I think there's still a lot of movement between now and when the transfer window closes, and I think they'll have a few more resources than we do to chop and change their squad a wee bit and make additions. So I don't know. I'm inclined not to read too much into that at the moment as to how that might affect us, and or how that might affect Giannis.
I agree. There is a school of thought that Chantis is going to sort of pick up his first week of pre-season training at Sunderland and try and make a bit of an impression and then see where the ground lies. I mean, I imagine his manager will probably have a word with him as well to say where they see him because I don't imagine there's much chance of him sticking around if Sunderland tell him he's not going to feature at all. So that might make things a little bit easier. But he had a good season with us. I think there's interest from elsewhere. And we talked about it on the phone in on Thursday as well that David Gray himself said, like, we can't hang around forever waiting on him. You happy with that approach, John?
I think so. I think the club is well within its rights to get its house in order, like with regards to the squad again, with who's going to play. You ideally want all of your players ready and available and taking part in preseason training. Like I know that there's probably a little bit of leeway afforded to someone like Travis because he has been part of the squad before, but also the current Hibs squad are already taking part in their pre-season training, which has included actual matches. And I don't know what sort of involvement. Giannis is having elsewhere. So you could argue that he's behind the curve in terms of preparation, which isn't it like with the where we are just now, we have a European game in the next couple of weeks.
Hmm.
Like we're gearing up for that, so it's kind of like it kind of needs to be getting involved pronto or not at all.
I'm sure the date for registering your squad for the first game is quite soon as well. So if he's going to feature in that, then things need to happen quite quickly, and it might be that Hibs look elsewhere. Although I would say I don't think midfield is like a like a critical area of the pitch that we need to sign for ahead of that game. It would be good to get Nectar in or somebody else, but I think we've got enough bodies in there that we could at least field a good team.
I was going to say, I think another aspect to that as well is that the guys that are there that are there ready, taking part and staking a claim for the first team. I think there needs to be a wee bit of management of the squad and the personalities. Like you can't just have a guy who's not playing suddenly turn up and then get pushed into the squad because that's going
Yeah,
to create a wee bit of dissent amongst the ranks.
I think it would. Like, I think footballers are quite pragmatic with that. Like if somebody was like if you knew they were going to make the team better and you could get them in, I think most players would be all right with that. Or do you think
I don't
so?
know. Like I think footballers tend to be known for their egos and wanting to play.
I suppose. Um, on that sort of wanting to play, Chris has said watched both games, so the Duisburg game and then the Ajax game, and just wonder what the role Josh Campbell will be. I really wonder where he fits in. I thought Josh Campbell really struggled. It's not to be unexpected. Yeah, not to be unexpected. The Hibs midfielder was struggling against an Ajax midfield. Like the first half on Saturday, we had Levitt, McGrath, and Campbell in the middle, and I mean Ajax on over the top. As really, I mean, it was for anybody who might have seen the football tournament that we played a couple of weeks back when we did the fives, and pretty much we played proper teams, and we were a sort of like a cobbled together outfit. It was 4 games. The team was just playing shooty in at me and goals, and that was pretty much the first half against Ajax. Right, so they just like flooded forward and scored goals almost at will. And I thought Josh Campbell really struggled throughout the game, but he wasn't alone there. And it's not like he was playing players that he would play every week in Scotland. So I think it's harsh to judge him on it, but I don't know where he fits in the team based on the other players that are there. What do you think, John?
I think that Josh Campbell's been written off before and has come back to answer his critics. So I think like I never saw the whole of the Ajax game. I've just reminded myself that I was actually at Mill Farm in Livingston trying to solve a fucking puzzle. They give you a map on the way in, and you go out and you find like different letters, and you have to create a word out of it. So that's why I missed the whole game. But I did watch the highlights, and my impression of the first half was that we were just a bit sloppy with where we were trying to play the ball. I think David Gray characterised it as the areas that we were trying to play football in, and I think we invited Ajax on. Um, actually, I feel like I'm going off on a tangent here. What was the original question?
It
It
was
was
about
about
Josh Campbell.
Josh Campbell.
Yeah.
I, I mean, it was like last season. This is the weird thing that I think that we face as football supporters from time to time is that players get written off, players get characterised certain ways, and then they come back and they start putting performances. And last season, if you recall, I think there was a bit of a suggestion that Josh Campbell might find himself attracting bids from Italy after the success of the likes of Lewis Ferguson, Josh Doig, and a couple others whose names escape me. So I don't know. Like I wouldn't read too much into that as well. Like it's the second game of pre-season. It was a massive test, and I
Mhm.
don't think it being a massive test and how Josh Campbell fared or didn't is a good indicator of where he might or how he might perform for the rest of the season. I still think he's a valuable part of the squad. I mean, you just mentioned there about Triantis and the question mark that surrounds him. Campbell's could potentially play a very vital part, if nothing more, if nothing else, being a squad player. But I'd like to see him challenging for the first team
Mhm.
on the basis of what he produced last season.
Kieran on the chat says felt sorry for Campbell. I think he knew he was struggling. His ball control was exposed. I think the thing with Campbell is, and we said it a lot last season, is he's obviously not like the perfect player. Very few players at Hibs, throughout our history have been perfect players. Um, and you always have to sort of accept the things you don't get with Josh Campbell to benefit for the things that you do get with him. And I think that will continue to be the case. I think he's just that sort of player. Like he's almost like a victim of his versatility a wee bit as well. I don't think he's like a nailed down, number 10 or a number 8 or a number 6 or whatever other midfield numbers you might want to cover. He doesn't stand out as sort of naturally fitting in any of them, although he can cover them all. So he benefits from being versatile, but I think he also suffers from it in that there'll be other players picked ahead of him. But I think he'll have a key role to play in the season, without a doubt. And he did it last season as well. Like you said, he was written off countless times and came back and popped up with important goals. In fact, we'll talk about a game tonight where he got 2 goals to win us a match against Celtic. So we know he's got it in him. And just he definitely had a difficult afternoon on Saturday. But then we were 5-1 down at half time. The whole team had a difficult afternoon.
Yeah, I think again, like I've not seen the ball control that was being referred to. I was actually just going to go and try and have a look at the highlights of the game that I'm pretty sure I know you're referring to. But I think sometimes, like I've mentioned this previously, it was in regards to Kaharovic when I went through to Ayr United for the Scottish Cup game last year. I think anyone that's played football, and I'd like to think that this applies to people whether they're playing fives, juniors, Sunday league or whatever, and even the professional guys. Sometimes you're playing and it's just not working for you.
Mm.
It's just not happening. And I think players can, I think, potentially start getting into their own head a little bit, start trying to do things uh, like overthinking it. And I wonder if maybe just I don't know, I'm speculating here, but maybe those first couple of touches have gone awry and he should need to come off after that.
Just immediately just hold your hands up and say, it's not my day.
Aye. But also, like, I mean, the circumstance of the game as well is like they had it was almost like wholesale changes at half time, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, this is the thing. It was a complete friendly, like against the team who's much better than us. You can't read anything into it. It was all about fitness. It was our second game of the pre-season. But for all we talk about it, it's kind of like a token gesture to talk about it. And we're already, I think, reading far too much into it than it warrants.
Nah,
Um,
Josh will be fine.
I'm sure he will
Hat
be.
trick, opening day of the season.
And I think all the players benefit from that, although they wouldn't feel like it at the time. I think a game where you're playing a team much better than you learn, and you sort of realise where you are in terms of your own progress and development and where we are in the pre-season. So I think it'll be a learning point. But in terms of positives, a couple of things that Ronnie's picked up on the chat. So first of all, I noticed Malky was at the game. I hope he brings back a handy little loan. I mean, there's definitely a few players in the Ajax team that would slot right into our team. And he said Hoylett looked in great shape for a latecomer. So Hoylett obviously had a bit longer off. I think from A, not being signed, and B, being away with Canada, which I think he was. He took his goal terrifically. It was a great ball from Mulligan, a couple of great touches for Hoylett, and he tucked that away. He's going to be an important player for us, John, isn't he?
Well, I think I'm on record on extra time as saying he's probably going to be Hibs' most important player this season. So, I think his experience is going to be invaluable, especially with losing Gale. I think you could see the difference. So we talked about I think it was in early December, Hoylett and Gale combining. There was almost like a mature understanding between the two.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to think that Hoylett's going to be that important player this year. At least that, obviously he's not going to make up for the experience that we're losing through Gale, but he's got his own attributes.
Definitely. I suppose the only other couple of things to pick out for that friendly and before I go into the talking points that folk have sent in. I was really impressed with Bowie. I thought Bowie looked sharp. Obviously, got a goal after I suppose missing a chance he probably should have scored.
I thought he
Um,
could have had three when I was
aye,
watching it. I don't know. I don't know what the XG on the other two were. One of them he's put wide of the post. I forget the second one that he had before he scored.
he goes through. He gets played in, and his shots just saved by the foot of the goalkeeper. I think, like he sort of throws it wide, or he fires it wide. Can't quite remember, but I thought he looked sharp for considering that was his like first meaningful involvement as well. But Mulligan was the standout. I thought once he came on, as and I don't know if you look for it because the sort of the hype around the signing, but there was a few times he just picked up the ball and just drove with it and took us up the pitch, and he looked really comfortable with doing that. And I think he obviously supplied the pass for Hoylett's goal, but I thought he looked a real player, like not out of place at that level.
And what position was he playing?
So he was playing in midfield. Um, my series away just started there on my phone thinking, what, why? It was hard to see. He was kind of drifting about different positions in the midfield, but I thought he was like sort of picking up a deep midfielder and driving forward for there. But he found himself out on the right a few times. He was linking up quite well with Miller on the right hand side. Miller looked quite good when he came on as well.
He almost had the one of those neck bulging um, goals that I was talking about. He actually absolutely attacked that ball. I think it came in from a corner,
It did, I.
and he's been running full pelt at it, and he's no slouch. Would have been a good one if it had hit the back of the net.
Nicky Cadden's crossing was another highlight as well. As we know, like his delivery is just unreal. Well, this is the thing. Like for all it was like a 6-3 high scoring game, we could have scored more than we did in that second half, and a lot of it down to the delivery from Nicky Cadden. He puts the ball into really dangerous areas. In fact, the goal that we scored in the first half. It was really good play by Obita on
Hmm.
the left hand side, just driving in, and the cross that he put in that eventually got turned in by Boyle was really good. It's funny, like 6-3 is a pump in, but I thought there were still quite a few positives to take from it, considering who we were playing.
I mean, it would have been interesting to have seen what game it would have turned into if all five of Ajax's shots hadn't found the bottom corner. Because I think that, to be fair, like I'm being a wee bit flippant about it, but I think their finishing was excellent, and they were in the bottom corner, which is I don't know if it's an example of their quality that in what might be their first or second preseason game that they were able to dig out those shots. Because the first one that they scored, like the boy, I don't think was balanced or kind of like set up properly for the shot, but he's just kind of like side footed it and got it beyond Smith. Like it was
It's
almost
unreal, isn't it?
like effortless at the same time as no being set. So it might have been a different game had they not had the finishing that they had we not invited them to take the shots that they had.
It does. It shows you the benefit of having players that can shoot for the edge of the box, though. Which is the other thing that I kind of picked up is they whenever they got a chance, they took a shot and they scored a few of them from, either on right on the edge of the box or a little bit further out.
Yeah, there's no, I don't know. I suppose though, like I don't know if you're looking for. I was going to say, like, is that the fault of the goalkeeper? Are you looking for the goalkeeper to do more there, or is it just as simple as it was really good quality shots from really good quality players?
I think they're good finishes. You kind of look at them, and I'm not sure if any of them really. I was looking at Smith and thinking probably should have saved that. I don't think so. I think they were all like you said. They found the corner. That first one goes in the top corner. Like I don't think many keepers are saving that one.
Hmm.
Um, aye, it was a difficult afternoon, but they were good. The shots for distance were good.
Holland is notoriously a hard place to go.
Holland, the whole of Holland is a
The whole
difficult
of
place
Holland.
to go. Unless you like cycling, it's good for cycling.
See, that was you saying before it that that was Bowie's first meaningful involvement, but you're overlooking the wee interview that he did in the bike.
That was good. It was good. I liked the bit they left in at the end where the camera was following him and he couldn't get away from it. It had like a wee tracking thing. and it was
He
freaking
couldn't
out.
lose his marker. That's not a
Aye,
good sign.
I suppose, especially if it was just like a wee robot. Right, we'll go to the talking points on uh, Twitter, and then we'll have a look at February's fixtures for last season. Jake Gapper said, right, with reference to the Gale replacement, i.e., an older boy who'd come on and do a job, and hopefully have some of it rub off on the younger guys. Fletcher was raised on the phone in, which I think was a good shout. However, dream scenario, which one of these free agents would you take and why? So these are the four that Jake Gapper sent in. Radamel Falcao, uh, Ciro Immobile, just Immobile. Like, we can't just call him Immobile. Immobile, Erin Dzeko, and Diego Costa. So out of those four, John, who would your older head be that you would bring into the team?
I think I was initially taken by Falcao because we've not had a South American at Easter Road for a while. However, Dzeko was a wee bit of a curveball there, so I think I might go for him. Although, do you know, I'll go with Dzeko. I was going to go like, but what about the different attributes that you've got? Is Dzeko a wee bit too much like Bowie? Does it make us a wee bit one-dimensional? Fuck all that. Get
Dzeko's
Dzeko in.
39. This makes you feel old,
Th-
right? So
And he's still playing.
Immobile is 35, Falcao's 39, and Diego Costa's 36. I think I'd probably go with Costa just for the fucking carnage. Like, he was good fun. Like, when he played for
Hmm.
Chelsea, it was Chelsea he was out, wasn't it? Like, he just used to be like bagging folk all the time. Nobody liked him. He's like one of these players that you love him if he was in your team and everybody else hates him.
Aye. I was going to say, I'm not sure I could see him playing in green. I can remember Dzeko, I think, playing for, let's say, Werder Bremen. They play for them, played in green for a while. But we've got a darker green, and I think I could see Costa. So when you're talking about them playing at Chelsea, I think they play in the darker blue. So I think that darker green would probably suit him rioting and punching fuck out of folk on the pitch.
Have that. Save it for a derby. Wait till we're a few goals up and then just troll them at the end.
Hmm.
Kieran said Josh Mulligan is a must in the middle of the park. Would be wasted at wing back. He looked a cut above when he came on. Not that I don't think he could play there and play well. Where do you think Josh Mulligan will feature most for Hibs, John?
That is a great question. I've got no idea. I think when we talked about him when he came in through his interview, I think he said that he'd been playing at wing back, right wing back, and they also played a little bit through the middle.
Mm,
And it's not like we are lacking for quality in those places. And like you've got to assume that he's going to start. And it might be that that Triantis just fizzles out, that nothing happens there. And maybe with the sort of running that's been described that Mulligan does, he might just be the sort of the natural successor to that role. Like, because Travis became pretty good at intercepting the ball further up the pitch and like up in and around the halfway line and driving the team forward. And I wonder if that's where Josh Mulligan might find himself in, because, like I say, at right wing back, like we're not lacking there. You've got Chris Cadden, and it's not like his performances have been falling off that make you think we need a replacement. However, there's definitely a gap in the middle that Mulligan could feature in.
I think he'll play more in midfield than at wing back. I think he'd be used at wing back if we have an injury to Cadden or Miller, depending on what happens with Megla as well. I mean, Megla played, he
Hmm.
started on Saturday. I don't know whether he'll be at the club all the next season or whether he'll go on loan again. Um, but I think Mulligan's probably seen more as a midfield player, and I think based on Saturday, I would be delighted to see him in there. I thought he looked great. Um, Chris said 19 days to go until the Europa League. Are we happy with the squad? What is missing, or what is needed, and who starts? And then the nectar problem. When do we say enough is enough and move on? So let's start with that one, John. Are we happy with the squad?
When we talked about it recently, I think we were pretty happy with it, but we suggested that we were maybe a wee bit light up top. And I think that was maybe made worse or maybe alleviated slightly depending on whether or not Yuan stayed,
Hmm.
was available, was fit, all that sort of stuff. And I think in either case, we probably still want one more because what have we got at the moment? Boyle, Yuan, Bowie. I can't
Yeah,
think of anyone else.
that's it really from the forwards. I mean, are you taking Hoylett or Molotnikov into the equation yet? Josh
Yeah,
Campbell at
Hoylett.
a real push could play like a striker, but I mean, you don't really want to be doing that. You want to actually have actual forwards that are playing in those roles. I don't think we want makeshift players going in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think since we last had that conversation, I think Hoylett's signed, but I don't think that really changes the shape of things up front. I think we still need one more.
I think we'll go two. I think we'll sign two strikers. Maybe not in the 19 days between now and the Europa League kicking off, but and then next, how long do you give it, John? Like if there's a chance of signing them right up until deadline day, do we wait until deadline day and risk not signing them and having nobody to back up, or do we sort of set a deadline soon and move on? Kind of once we decide to move on, we move on and never speak of him again.
So the transfer window closes on the 1st of September. I don't think I don't think it would be wise to wait until the 1st of September to decide whether Giannis is coming in or not. Or sorry, to wait and see if he wants to come to Hibs. I think the ship sails long before that.
Ian on the chat said, "Is the ball not in our court? Like make a bid for Giannis that Sunderland will accept." I think Hibs have done that. I think Hibs and Sunderland know the terms to make the deal happen. From what I gather, it's Giannis is the hold up. I think he's wanting to see what's available, as is his right. Like to see who else comes in or whether Sunderland want to keep a hold of him. But I think if Giannis decides he wants to spend the season at Hibs, he'll be at Hibs. I think the clubs will come to an agreement with it. I don't think it's a case of Hibs holding things up by not offering Sunderland the money that they need.
I'm not sure about the dates, European fixtures, etc. But like, could Hibs find themselves out of Europe by the 1st of September?
I don't know. I need to check the dates. Probably. Hibs will find a way to do something like that. Like, when have you known us not to do something like that, John?
Yeah, I mean the season kicks off. Hibs season kicks off domestically on the 3rd of August, and like it just seems illogical to me to have potentially three, maybe four games before the transfer window closes, and you're still waiting on a guy to come in. So no, if I'd say like, and I'm pushing it here, I'd say come the 1st of August. If he's not in, move on. Like look at whether it's other targets or reassess where you are and decide whether you're happy with it.
I agree. I think Hibs have to look after Hibs here, and for all, Chantis was a really good player last season. And said the same about Rocky. Like, there's nobody at Hibs. I don't think that's irreplaceable at the moment. I don't think we've got anybody at that level that you're going like we couldn't get in somebody as good from somewhere. It's a big world of football players out there, and there's loads of them become available at this time of year. So if it's no Chantis, it'll be somebody else that we can pick up that's at that level. I don't think it's like if we can't get Chantis, then we're going to take a massive step down in terms of quality and in terms of alternatives.
It's not, I mean, I think the situation, the way these things tend to work out, or the way that these things should work out, is that Charis had a really good season last season, and he has put himself in the shop window, whether it's a move to another club, whether it's the Hibs, but that could also be because I think there's interest seemingly from Blackburn, St. Pauli, etc. But he could think to himself, well, I moved to Sunderland because I wanted to play for Sunderland. There was an opportunity for me to play there. But at the same time, whatever the Triana situation, I think you mentioned it there, that there could be other players that will be looking at Hibs and saying, hang on, there's an opportunity for me to progress my career, to benefit, to have a mutually beneficial
Mm-hmm.
arrangement. So if not Giannis, then it could absolutely be someone else. And I think I wouldn't want us to get too hung up on one player and kind of cut our nose off to spite our face, like and wait and wait and wait. And I think that's true probably for both parties. Like Chanis might find himself a much better deal elsewhere, and I think he would go. I mean, I don't, it's not even fair to say that he would go with our best wishes because he's not our player.
Well, this is, I suppose, he would sort of retrospectively get our best wishes, wouldn't he, for when
Aye,
we
like,
left at the end of the season?
thanks for your efforts. You've got a great move. Well done.
Aye, you're now dead to us.
Aye.
Um, what I want to know, John, more than anything at this moment in time is on the chat on YouTube. People who are commenting have, not everybody, a little purple icon next to the names of the wee crown, and then a number one or a number three. In fact, there's a number two there as well. So Chris Black has got number one, Ronnie's got number two, Bob here is number three. Is YouTube ranking people's quality of comments or is it volume? What's the script there?
I
Do you
think
know?
it might be penis size.
It could be. It could be the how YouTube would know, but um,
It could be. It could be who's most in the know because Chris came up with some cracking insight recently with regards to the Mulligan deal, like bona fide, verifiable ITK.
yeah. Bob said, right, so the thing is, we could use the money for someone else. Then he says he wants to come to us. Then what? I suppose it's just tough luck. And I mean, at some point, we're going to have to say you had your chance and you didn't take it. So we've moved on. Um, Chris said scenario Chantis will drag on. You'll score the winner for Tiny. So sorry, score the winner at Tiny for Sunderland on the 26th. Celebrates by ripping off his top and unveiling the 150th third kit, and then signs on the 27th.
Do we like rip it off to the Hulk Hogan music?
Aye,
Did it feel the Hibs strip underneath?
off. You won't like me when I'm mad. Then it's the 150th kit underneath it. Okay, DA33 said any young Ajax players wanting more senior game minutes. The talent of that team just seems to be non-stop, replenish every season. I mean, it was mostly, I think, they're young players that played in the second half, and they look impressive. M. Dow said, why do so many of our fans lose the plot over a pre-season friendly against a top-quality European team? John, there's some people who say that they shouldn't bother televising these games because folk do go a bit loopy. Some people do. Although I have to say, most people that I saw comments from were like, pre-season doesn't matter. But there are an odd one or two that go mental about it. Why do you think that happens?
I don't know. I don't know. I was taking an absolute piss yesterday when I saw the score. So one of my we were talking before we started recording about comedies and how they keep the like recurring jokes going, whether people find it funny or not. So mine is when it like a scoreline 5-1 anywhere in the world, that's then finished as a club. And I did it with us yesterday. And I think the thing about the internet is that you can never be absolutely sure that what the person is saying is what they're feeling. It could just be some idiot like me taking the absolute piss.
This is true. You kind of miss that, don't you? The tongue-in-cheek aspect that folks
Aye,
sometimes
because
to be funny.
aye, and I'd be hard. I was going to say I'd be hard pressed to think that anyone was genuinely upset about a 0-0 draw against Duisburg or a 6-3 pre-season friendly against Ajax. Like,
A 2-1 second half win, you mean?
sorry, a 2-1 second half win against Ajax. I mean, we should absolutely celebrate that. That's something you should name a podcast episode after. And I mean, you're playing different teams. And I do literally mean that. Like there was a different
Mm.
team first half to second half. Like aye, I wouldn't read too much into it. I wouldn't get too upset about it.
Nah, especially not just like your early ones, especially like when the teams. It's just about getting minutes. Like they've not even they don't even pick the team based on like skill or necessarily positions. It's like who needs 60 minutes in this game, who needs a half an hour or whatever.
Well,
Like, and who's going to get 60 minutes when we play on Wednesday night? And the sort of
David Gray referenced exactly that when he said that there were boys there who didn't have any minutes in their lives yet, and now they had 45. Like I think there was a lot of pragmatism about that game yesterday. There was still some things that he referenced that he wanted the side to improve upon. I think I mentioned it earlier about where they were trying to play football. But otherwise, it was about getting legs and bodies up to and brains up to match sharpness.
Spot on. Um, Green Tea said that the crown is OXP at the top of the chat. What is that? I don't know what OXP is, but I found there's a wee explanation. The purple crown is for top fans. So well done if you've got one of them. John McGlynn says, evening bangers from Seville, taking a break from 35-degree heat to come and watch you guys. It's very kind of you, John. Hope you got a beer. Green Tea said, I don't think we should give Triantis more than another couple of weeks. Agree there. Chris said, could Manny play a big part against Midtjylland, especially as he has experience of Danish football? I think he played at a lower level than the top flight there. But that would be handy experience to have, regardless, John, wouldn't it? To have somebody that knows Danish football on the pitch.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know how much influence someone that spent a bit of time in the country would have when you're playing against Danish opposition. I mean, I don't know, like he's maybe a double agent. Maybe he's compiled a dossier of the Midtjylland players that he's able to inform David Gray and the analytics team about. Maybe, like he might know a bit of the language. He might be able to go. He might be able to. Do you know what he might do? He might be on the pitch. He might be able to intercept one of those wee scraps of paper that subs sometimes come on with.
Aye.
He's like the enigma, a walking, talking enigma machine.
He's. I thought he looked good when he came on Saturday as well. For all, we're not reading too much into what happened. Here's one for you for John White. Said any possibility of Nisbet coming back? We have money and it isn't going on Chiantis. I don't think there's a. I mean, Nisbet would do a job, but I don't think he would be necessarily welcomed with open arms for everybody. Certainly, the reaction that John's tweet got from it seemed people were quite against the idea. But would you see us going in for him?
Uh, nah, I can't see it. I think I think one possible reason for it is David Gray would have worked with him before, but I think if you go back to Malky Mackay's mantra, if you like, of no dickheads, I don't know if Nisbet, based on some of the things that we've heard about him, I don't know if that would work at HTC in the training in the dressing room.
Yeah. Okay, George Clark said, hope a new era playing three midfielders, plenty to choose from now and all of reasonable quality. David Gray signed so many, there must be a new plan. Cannot then just put them on a bench or not even in the squad. Boyle and Nicky Cadden wide with Bowie or Yuan in the middle as a front three. It'd be interesting. I think we'll stick with the sort of the 3-5-2 or the 5-3-2 and have Boyle and Bowie or whoever else gets signed as like the sort of the main two strikers getting fed from the wing backs, putting crosses in. I think that's how we'll continue to play. And then V4 Paolo said, what about the letter sent to shareholders today about new shares being issued, reducing loans, etc. So this came out. This caused some conversation on the various sort of platforms that we're on as folk tried to get their head around what had happened. So they're trying to find out exactly what it was and how much. But from what I gather, so I got the letter through yesterday. I probably should have brought it up the stairs then. I could have read it. It's not interesting enough to read. But effectively, there's, I think, a nominal value of however many million shares are being created. Some of that will go to cover £3 million worth of debt from Biden, which is the Gordon family. And then the remaining shares, and I don't know whether the Gordons are taking some more shares on top of that, but will be sold to HSL, to Leslie Robb, and to Black Knight, who will all, I suppose, maintain probably their shareholding as a percentage. Like if the Gordons are taking more, then rather than diluting, they'll put money in and sort of stay where they are, I would think. You're looking at me funny there, John.
I've got no idea. I was going to ask you to explain it to me like I'm five. So I don't even know where to start with it. I'm not a shareholder.
So I'm going to explain
I
it.
don't pretend to understand.
So the Gordons have what, 60, like say for argument's sake, Gordons have got 65% in the shareholding overall, right? I can't remember the exact figure, but let's say that that's what they have. Black Knights have 25, say,
Hmm.
so what does that take up to 90%? And
Hmm.
then if you ignore all the small shareholders, say the other 10% is made up of Leslie Robb with 7% and HSL with 3, right? They're not the correct figures, but just for argument's sake. So because we've been running at a loss and the Gordons said that they would cover the loss, they've
Hmm.
loaned Hibs money,
Hmm.
right? And what they're doing is rather than asking Hibs to repay it, they'll say, we'll create new shares and we'll take that £3 million back as equity.
Hmm.
But what happens then is because there's more shares created and they're taking more of it, they go from 65 to 67% for argument's
Hmm.
sake, and everybody else goes down a wee bit in terms of what they've got as a percentage as a result.
Hmm.
So there's more shares, and if nobody else puts money in, they get diluted, and the Gordons increase their stake because they've put more money in and nobody else has.
Hmm.
So to maintain their uh, proportion of the shares, Black Knights, HSL, and Leslie Robb will all put money in as well. So they won't be putting in as much. So there will be some dilution there because I don't think it's 6 million that's going in overall. But so the Gordons will increase a wee bit. Black Knights and that will decrease a wee bit, but not as much as they would if they never put any other money in. The bottom line is for Hibs is that the club doesn't have to pay back the Gordons any money. So it's good news. And then there's more money getting put in, which I think is being used to fund signings over the summer. So it's a good news story for the club, whichever way you cut it.
It sounds good, and you've answered the question I was going to ask, which is this a good thing, a bad thing, an indifferent thing, a business as usual thing?
Yeah, I think business as usual is just like a good way for the club to get money. And in fact, if you remember that the AGM where the initial investment was agreed, so not the last AGM, but the AGM prior to that, Ben Kensel said that there was opportunity for future capital calls for the shareholders, which would mean the Black Knights could put more money in, so long as they stay within the cap that they got, which I think was 30%, wasn't it? So as long as they stay within the 30%, they can keep putting money into the club, and the club will benefit from that
Is
fresh
this
capital.
something, so for that fresh capital, is that something that the club has to do every year? Do they have to create new shares every year to attract new capital into the club?
So they don't have to do it, but that's the easiest way to do it, pretty much. And I think it keeps it fair, I suppose, because you've got this split ownership. That if it was only the Gordons putting money in, then it would be right that they owned more of the club.
Hmm.
So if they're going to do it through shares, then they need to release it so that everybody gets the opportunity to chip in, and then they can decide whether they want to or not. And if they do, then they'll maintain their holding, and the club benefits with the money.
What happens in the future? You might not know the answer to this, and maybe one of the listeners do, but does a situation exist whereby Leslie Robb, HSL, Black Knight, that they can put money into the club and the Gordon family don't, without there being any sort of knock-on impact with shares,
It would be if I suppose if they just donated it, which
right?
is which they could do. I don't necessarily say where they would, but if you look at the guys, James Anderson at Hearts, that's what he did. He donated 5 million every season, and he never swapped that for shares or anything. It was a straight, here's 5 million, quick, go and spend it, and they benefited for that without giving up anything for it. As far as I know, I don't think there was any sort of contingency on that being shares. Whereas if you look at what Bloom's done going in there, he's got those non-voting shares, so they can pretend they're not part of a multi-club model, although they are. So again, Hearts fucking fudging the rules because fucking why would they know? Anyway, right. I'm not going to start talking about them, but that was that's the investment effectively. One other talking point from Patreon, and don't forget if you're a member on Patreon, not necessarily like a paid member, but the free members get access to it as well. There is a long baggers chat on there if you want to talk to some other Hibs in between episodes. Sandy said, playing a major European side like Ajax, did it benefit us for our own European journey? What do you think?
I, uh, the benefit I would imagine would be negligible. I don't know that it's going to suddenly revolutionise Hibs into a better European outfit just for having played Ajax once. What might improve Hibs in the future is playing teams the quality of Ajax more regularly. And I think to do that, you would have the corresponding league finishes, investment, players, all that stuff that adds up to that regular European competition.
Aye, I think that's the goal, isn't it? That eventually you end up playing these teams competitively in meaningful games, and you have players that are at a level that can compete
Yeah.
long term. That's where you want to get to. Right. Well, we move to last season. Take a step back and look at their February fixtures. So I almost included this one in last Sunday until Colin pulled me up because he didn't want to own any overtime. We kicked off February home game against Aberdeen, 2-0 win. It was actually quite a straightforward game in the end. Like I think we were quite comfortable.
Routine.
Routine. What do you remember this one?
Well, I watched the goals just as we were talking at the start of the episode, just to remind myself. Triantis' goal was a ball. I can't remember if it was a cross or a corner. But Triantis finds himself unmarked and sort of has a almost stooping diving header to knock it in. And then second half it was Cadden, and I couldn't remember this. And that was, I think it was seeing Nicky Cadden on the score sheet and thinking I can't remember that goal. And it was Chris Cadden and Nicky Cadden combining, and it was the header off the underside of the crossbar that I think VAR had to have a look at.
Yeah, the linesman flagged offside. Again, this is another one where VAR came to the rescue and we've talked about it fucking until the cows come home about the amount of complaints VAR gets and see the amount of times it dug us out last season. In
Hmm.
fact, not just in this game, we'll talk about the Celtic game as well because they did it there too. Um, the linesman gave offside and Nicky Cadden wasn't offside.
I'm trying to think, was this Colin? Colin would have known this. Hi, Colin, if you're listening. But is this a game where we overtook Aberdeen in the league? Because I
Oh,
remember that we were definitely climbing the league and they were starting to drop down a bit.
I don't think we overtook. I don't think it was like a if we win we overtake them one,
Right.
but it did. I remember the chat going into it being we didn't want it to be a game where the fortunes flipped again. So the 3-3 was widely seen as the game where like Aberdeen went from winning that game to drawing it in the last sort of however many seconds of the game, and then they went on a shite run, whereas we went snatched the draw from defeat, and then kicked on. I remember David Gray. That was like sort of we talked about the stories that he would tell about the games and how he positioned them with the players, and that was definitely something he spoke about pre-match. Was it was important that we went and kept our run going and never gave Aberdeen the chance to build up any momentum. I thought Aberdeen was shite. Like we were really comfortable, and I think getting that goal in the right after half time because Cadden's goal was like 48th minute. I want to say. Um, it was right after half time anyway, so 46, 47, round about that time.
It was, 48.
But early on in the second half, and then it was comfortable after that. I don't think Aberdeen really bothered us at all. A really comfortable win, but that was probably when I was like, when it felt like we could properly get third. But I think we still had a bit of chasing to do on. Well, we must have still had chasing to do on Aberdeen and Dundee United at this point, but it felt achievable, and it felt like a huge win. That was one of those ones where you come out of the stadium and everybody was fucking buzzing. Like it was a proper yes, we've done it. We could go ahead and look forward to the next game now.
Yep.
Aberdeen were fucking shite. Um, I'm just having a look at the team. So we lined up Smith, O'Hora, Levitt, Boyle, Cadden, as in Chris, Iredale, Nicky Cadden, Chantis, Josh Campbell, Rocky Bashiri, and rare start for Dwight Gill as well.
There you go.
Aye, but and a comfortable win. I thought the team were excellent that game. They really played well. Next up for us though, and it wasn't quite as interesting a game, was the 0-0 at St Mirren.
You say that when I was thinking about things that we could maybe talk about, events of these games and what they meant for the league table, etc. That was Mane's debut.
It was, yep.
He lasted about 13 minutes, and he was robbed of a sterling debut.
The referee totally lost the plot in that game. I actually thought like last season, for all I'm somebody who has historically moaned about referees, I thought last season I really tried my best to give them the benefit of the doubt in games and would try to look for like to play devil's advocate almost with my own biases against them to be fair. But this game, he was fucking murder. Uh, Gogic should have been sent off. Like you look at the two bookings that Mane got and what Gogic got away with, it was fucking nuts. And the referee couldn't send off Mane quickly enough.
Yeah.
I think the only other notable thing for that day was Jordan Smith pulled off the double save. That was a goal. Like I mean, St Mirren were scoring.
Yep.
Kind of when the ball rebounded out, you're like, oh fuck, here we go. And I think how Smith saved it, like the rebound.
So that the rebound comes out, and then he's sort of like scrambling over to his right hand side, and it would have been the striker's left that they tried to put
Aye,
the ball into, and he's gotten over. Aye.
it was like proper, like celebrated almost like a goal for the fans as well because you knew how important it was. Um, and I guess like for all of the game never had that much in terms of incident because the even Mane's red card it was for 2-0 fouls really like his second one I don't even think was a fucking free kick. Um,
Was it not just like it was an aerial duel, wasn't it? But is he not just gone up, tried to header the ball, and like there's maybe been I don't even remember him like putting an elbow on the guy or like leading with an arm or like a
that was
clash of
mad
heads
of
or anything
that.
like that.
Aye, I think what the referee saw that made him feel he had to pull out a second yellow card. But I think the thing that I took from it was it was a difficult ground to go to, right? To play on that one. We'd taken a hiding there earlier in the season. I think like we were too clever there the season before. St Mirren had almost been a wee bit of a bogey team for us,
Yeah,
and
I
we
think
saw it out.
we've had a laugh recently about the whole it's a difficult ground to go to and game. Like if Colin's listening, we should be saying, aye, but we should be going to these places and win. If you go to these places and win, you don't need to worry about the old firm, etc., etc. And I agree with that. I do. But I also take into account that St Mirren weren't a poor side last season. I take into account what you were saying about them having already given us a doing earlier in the season. They were also um, fighting for the top six and were
Yeah,
a contender at one point, like towards the end of the season, for European football. So they weren't an easy side to go and get points against.
aye. Well, Bob points out that St Mirren were annoyingly the only team we didn't beat. And fair enough, we had to go there three times as well. Like, we only had to meet Easter Road once last season because of the quirk of the split. But aye, it felt like a long drive home that day for Paisley.
It's actually one of the closer ground. Well, maybe not for you because you're over the bridge, but it's quite a nice drive for me.
It's not a bad ground to go there. I really quite like going through there, but aye, I think just that we sat in traffic for ages after it because the Hibs end was busy because we were on a good run. Like
Mm.
the away end was busy. Folk waited to the end as well. It wasn't like folk were clearing out because the game was in the balance and all the rest of it. So it just I fucking took ages getting him. Right, next game though was a better one. Celtic came to visit and we won 2-1. So Josh Campbell got the two early goals. Celtic got a goal back and then obviously had a goal correctly ruled out. Again, VAR coming in to resolve a linesman's mistake. What are your memories of this game, John?
Josh Campbell. Josh Campbell and the Josh Campbell, the influence that Giannis had for a good period of last season. So he played the pass for Campbell's opening goal, and there was options available to him, but he's picked out the right one. Campbell running through, and like you say, the I think I'm trying to remember what it was that I said a couple of weeks ago, but it was like the influence of Gale late in the game. It was his goals that were the difference between winning a game and losing a game kind of late on.
Hmm.
So there was a lot of pressure for Celtic in the second half, and they've got one goal back. I think did they get a goal back before there was the controversy around the ball being out?
Aye, that would have been the equaliser.
But even after the controversy of the goal being ruled out, etc., like there was still a lot of pressure there, and we hung on. So that was a really important performance. Like obviously the how many games was it in the end? Was it 18 games we went unbeaten?
17 league
17
games. Yeah.
unbeaten. So like we couldn't have known just how important those those moments were. But they make such a big difference, like at the end, like accumulatively, like towards the end of the season, just like withstanding pressure, being clinical when you get chances coming your way. So like Campbell with the first one, um, he's not had a great first touch. Or well, in fact, it'd be interesting to get a professional footballer's point of view on that because I think ideally he'd probably take the touch into his path, but quite often in football, the perfect touch doesn't always, or the perfect strike on the at the end of it doesn't always result in a goal. But what he's done is he's managed to get the ball under the arms of Schmeichel, and like I don't think it was a great cross or the best header, but he's managed to guide it beyond Schmeichel again.
Aye. And the linesman flag went up.
And the
And
linesman flag went up. Aye,
it
because
was
he
right,
couldn't
right on
possibly
half time,
believe
wasn't it? And then the
that Hibs would be two up.
linesman tried to rule it out, and they drew the lines, and it was fine. And they had all that controversy. Then full time whistle, we got Sunshine on Leith, which was a really good moment with the players and the fans. Um, Chris said the Celtic game showed Scottish refs at the best, gave them everything when they were behind. They really did. Like it was like Hibs against 12 men in that second half. But I thought we were brilliant after, and again another one. And this is the thing, like so we've talked about it before about Jack Ross's time at Hibs being sort of uh, almost black marked by the fact he didn't have these sort of it was COVID season, his best one. We didn't have very many, if any, of these big big wins, with like Celtic getting beat Easter Road. And when you do get them, you see the difference it makes to how you feel about the season or the team, because everybody's like, on cloud nine coming out Easter Road.
Yeah.
The atmosphere is brilliant through the game. Everybody's like fucking right behind the team, like all the way through the frustrations that you sometimes get weren't there. It was encouragement, and it was just brilliant. It was like a really, really brilliant afternoon. I think that's when you kind of got a sense of how together the players were as well. Like we knew that was coming, and we'd heard the stories by this point about Joe Newell cancelling the Christmas night out and the players having a summit meeting to sort it out and sort of holding each other at higher standards and all this kind of thing. We were into the era of them celebrating tackles and blocks and Rocky running back in this one where he was like, dragging his injured leg behind him, but still finding a
Yeah.
way to get back to block the ball in the line. You definitely got a sense in this game, probably more than any other, just how much everybody was fighting for the cause.
Aye. A bit. Aye. I wonder. I'm curious about how that's going to pan out next season. Like, is it because, say, for example, we don't have the best start to the season, we don't have a good season. Like, does that mean that like team spirit only matters when you're running? Because the team spirit will presumably still be there because there'll be that core of players.
Aye, but the team spirit's what drags you through the hard times. I think by the players' own admission, it was lacking at the start of the season. Like our performances were okay, but we had so many of the individual errors and stuff, which why it required, Dwight Gale talking about we're no mean enough to each other, like we didn't,
Mhm.
or nasty enough. Why Joe Newell's got to call a summit meeting, why they got to cancel the Christmas night out is because things weren't as they should be.
They
And once
cancel a
they
Christmas night out.
did, they cancelled the Christmas night out because we weren't performing well enough. And folk criticise him as a captain, but Joe Newell's influence throughout the season post injury as well was phenomenal. From what I've heard, from what we've seen for folk, Joe Newell played a very very strong captain's part throughout the season. Irrespective of him featuring on the pitch or not. Anyway, we rounded out February with a 3-1 win up at Tannadice. And again, this was a huge one as well because Dundee United had the chance to open up a gap on us. I think we were right on their coattails. I think we might have overtaken them this night. So it was like a packed Tannadice. So Tannadice doesn't get, I think, how many it holds, but there was 10,500, just over 10,500 there, which is busy for Tannadice. Away end was Stroud out.
It's the Calforth Construction Arena.
Is it? That goes back to what I was talking about fucking the other night, wasn't it? Like
Calforth Construction Arena at Tannadice Park.
Tannadice.
I thought Tannadice was bigger. I thought it held more.
I'm sure it probably holds more than that. I don't know what the capacity is, but they didn't often sell it out. But it was busy that night. And again, they went a goal up. Miko equalised. It was tough the second half. I thought Dundee United played well in the second half, and they got what would have been a goal. But
I'm starting to remember the game. I don't know. So Dundee United obviously performed pretty well last season. I think they finished fifth in the end.
Fourth. They overtook Aberdeen last day.
Right, okay. And I think the hallmark of their, I want to say the hallmark of their season, but definitely it was definitely evident during that game was that they seemed to play at a very high pace and put Hibs under a lot of pressure. I'm going to say it wasn't dissimilar to Livingston, but perhaps with better quality.
They just lumped the ball in the box loads. That's what Dundee United's tactics were. We'll go wide and early crosses and hope Dalby was getting on the end of them.
Yeah. But they got the opener and they definitely put on a bit of pressure in the second half. And I think that was when they had their goal that was chalked off. Because it looked like, I think it was one each at that point, and it looked like they would go on and win it after that, which wouldn't have derailed their season. It would have derailed that unbeaten run and would have had implications come the end of the season. But I don't know if you would say that VAR bailed us out or done us a favour or what.
I got it right. This is I think that's what annoyed me so much. Like with the Celtic game before this one, and then with Goodwin's reaction. So Chris has said how funny was Goodwin's meltdown. He absolutely went full on Chernobyl. He did. Like he came out after it. And I remember us talking about the VAR review with Willie Collum, and he's sitting and they somehow fucking convinced people that you couldn't see the handball. And Willie Collum sitting with the screen behind him on this VAR review thing, and I encourage people to go back and watch it. And they've frozen in the screen as the ball's on Dalby's arm. And he said, "There's no definitive view of the ball hitting his arm, so they should have went with the on-field
the one behind me."
It's like Leslie Nielsen standing in front of the fireworks factory that's on fire, giving it there's nothing to see. Like, move away. It was mental. There's no tanks in Baghdad. Like one of these sort of statements with the tanks rolling.
Comical column.
Yeah. It was absurd. It's like max level gaslighting for the SFA.
And I've not seen it. I've not seen a VR review. I remember watching it at the time. I was watching the game, and there, like through grainy footage, it certainly looked like it had come off Dalby's arm after it had hit his head.
Yeah.
Was that the same footage that was on the screen behind him, or was it something clearer?
So one of that, when he frozen it, it's just when he really froze it, you could see it on effectively on his arm. And he said there's no definitive fucking angle. And you're going, well, the VAR they play the audio and they talk about how they can see it. This is what blew my mind with this one and the Celtic decision. The VAR audio tells you what they're seeing. Like they explain it, they say it out loud what they've seen, and they see the handball. The goal gets disallowed as it should be because it's fucking hit his arm, and that's the rule. Harsh, right? He didn't mean it, and we got away with one because it was going in whether it hit his arm or not. But it did hit his arm, and the letter of the law is that's a free kick to Hibs, which is what ended up with. But that was like a proper sliding door moment. in that game and probably the season again, because that went our way. It wasn't long after that goal was disallowed that Kieran Bowie scored a fucking cracking goal as well. And then Junior Hoyle wrapped up an injury time with another one where the linesman flagged offside where he wasn't offside.
I
And
was
VAR
just about to
came out.
ask, who was it that played the ball? Was it Hoylett or was it Triantis for Bowie? And I'm sitting looking at the BBC match report here and it's saying
Triantis.
Victor Triantis.
Aye.
But I think that
It
was
was
an
a brilliant
example
ball at
of,
Bowie.
I think, is that one of those ones where he's intercepted it and just played off the pass to Bowie who's run through?
There's like a wee interchange. I think Gale was on the pitch at this point, maybe. Although I think it kind of the ball. We win the ball in midfield. It goes to Gale. He lays it to Triantis, who plays a first timer into Bowie's path, and
Yeah.
he's through, and his finish is superb. And Hoyle looked miles offside. Like we were a full joke about or say they didn't celebrate goals because of VAR.
Hmm.
I didn't jump about with Hoylett's one because of VAR. Because when I looked at it, I was like, it's fucking miles off, and the linesman put his flag up. I was like, it's like way offside. And then the longer it was like, there's no, it's got to VAR. They're checking it. It's tight, and then you start getting the feedback through like on your phone and that saying radio saying it's a goal. You're like, yes, and then the
But
scenes.
was he not a good bit onside afterwards, like when
No,
the
it
checks
was
were done?
marginal, but it was on. Um, aye, and then everybody celebrated it properly at that point, and then
Yep.
referee blew full time pretty much immediately, and aye, great scenes. We'll talk obviously we follow that up with the Derby win, which we'll cover next week because we're in the March fixtures. But that was a huge week, if you remember, it was Celtic, Dundee United, then Hearts, and we had done like a sort of our preview show, and I think we expected to win one and draw two maybe out of that, and we ended up coming away with 9 points. A huge week in the season for Hibs, and a
Yeah.
brilliant game, brilliant two games, those two. Anyway, right, we're out of time, John, for the night. Thank you to everybody who contributed. Ray McCool said, "Hi lads, sorry about my timekeeping. Was born 2 weeks late and been 2 weeks late ever since. I'll watch the start once she's finished. I hope you enjoy it, Amy. No worries." Bob said Bowie's going to be important to us this coming season. I believe it will be as well. Right, we'll be back with extra time for subscribers tomorrow. Again, we'll put a wee post up on the Patreon if there's anything in particular you'd like us to talk about. Then just stick your suggestion in there. We'll pick it up. Feeling that we will come up with something. But to subscribe, you can join as a YouTube member right here, or you can visit our Patreon and you can get a free trial for 7 days and see if you fancy it. It's less than the price of a pint. In fact, probably less than the price of half a pint now as well, which is a good deal, I would say. Anyway, right, we're out of time and we will leave it there and we'll see you next time.